Hi everyone. Thank you very much for watching. I always appreciate it. I'm Orlando Ruiz Jr. Welcome to another classic movie review. Because I want to kick things off with a little pre-October monster movie review, this is my review of the classic black and white 1943 film Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, directed by Roy William Neill. This movie stars Lon Chaney Jr., Bela Lugosi, Lionel Atwell, Patrick Knowles, Yona Massi, Maria Ouspenskaya, and we also have Dwight Fry, the original Renfield from the 1931 Dracula film. And this is a big deal for monster movie fans, for classic movie fans. If you're a fan of the old Frankenstein series, this is a fifth in that series. And if you're a fan of the Wolfman movies, this is kind of a sequel to the original 1941 Lon Chaney Jr. classic, The Wolfman. And so, yeah, this is a real fun experience for monster movie fans because we get that great crossover between two great monsters. At the very beginning of the film, we open on a creepy looking cemetery. It's very foggy, it's nighttime, and right away when the movie opens, there's great atmosphere with the cemetery scene as we see a couple of men trying to make their way through the cemetery in order to get to the body of Sir Lawrence Talbot, who is the man who turns into the Wolfman, who passed away at the end of the 1941 classic movie. And there's a little window above the door, and they climb through the window and they get to the coffin with the intention of robbing Sir Lawrence Talbot's body of any jewelry he might have had on him, since they know that he was kind of a wealthy guy. And this is kind of in the same vein of a movie like the classic opening of Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, where you have a couple of guys not trying to rob Jason, but the intention there is for one of them to make sure that he's dead, really, which was a big mistake in that one. And similar to that one, you have a couple of guys opening this grave. There's a hand that reaches out and grabs one of these guys, and then the other guy gets scared, drops his little lantern where the flame eventually spreads, creates a fire as he leaves his friend there and he climbs out the window, leaves his friend to die basically. Very soon after, we see a police officer stumble upon the body of Lawrence Talbot out in the street. And then after that, Lawrence Talbot wakes up in a hospital where he's being taken care of by Dr. Mannering, played by Patrick Knowles, who was in the first Wolfman movie playing a different character. First time I saw this movie was a little bit confusing because I knew this actor from The Wolfman as Frank Andrews in that film. So I had to remind myself whenever I watched Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman that, yeah, this is a different character altogether. Because a lot of the films in this series, whether it's the Frankenstein or Dracula movies or the Wolfman movies, a lot of the actors are kind of interchangeable in certain roles. Pretty soon, Lon Chaney Jr.'s character Lawrence Talbot wakes up in the hospital very frightened and confused. He's still aware that he has the curse of the werewolf upon him, and he knows that when the moon is full, he's going to change again. He's very afraid to kill again because he really is a good man deep down inside. And at the hospital, he meets the character played by Patrick Knowles in the role of Dr. Mannering. There's also a cop that comes around the hospital that's very suspicious of Lawrence and very much wants to question him, especially after a night where he breaks out of the hospital after a transformation when the moon is full, becomes the Wolfman, and he's loose on the streets once again. He kills somebody that night, and then the next morning wakes up back in the hospital with a head wound that's opened up again. And the doctor is very protective of his patient and doesn't let the cop question Lawrence at first, but eventually Lawrence starts to kind of wig out a little bit because he knows that it's going to happen again. Dr. Mannering makes a phone call to the town where Lawrence claims to be from in order to confirm his identity and where he's from, and that's when he finds out that Lawrence has been dead for the last 4 years, and so learning this only confuses the cop and the doctor all the more. And then Lawrence escapes from the hospital once again, where he ends up in the town where the events of the Frankenstein movies took place. And he runs into an old friend, Maliva, the gypsy woman that helped him in the 1941 classic original film. And it's a really cool little reunion. At this point, Lawrence just wants to be rid of the werewolf curse for good, and the only way he knows that that can be done is in death. And so he asks his old friend Maliva if she can help him, and that's when she tells him that there's only one man that can help him, and that is Dr. Frankenstein. And this is where things get very fun and very interesting for monster movie fans. So they go to seek out Frankenstein, but they find out that Frankenstein is now dead. Lawrence finds a way to meet the daughter of Dr. Frankenstein, played by Yona Massi, in the role of Baroness Ilsa Frankenstein, who at first is very hesitant to help him, but then comes around later on and agrees to show him where her father kept his diary in the ruins of the old castle. Upon exploring the old castle deep within its ruins, Lawrence finds the Frankenstein monster covered in a block of ice, which he breaks through in order to set the monster free, where the monster wakes up once again. And one of the things that could have made this movie all the more sweeter, even though it's still very entertaining, is if we had the original actor portraying the monster, the same actor from the 1931 film, Boris Karloff. Very much like when you watch Freddy vs. Jason, it would have been so much better if we had Kane Hodder back in the role of Jason to match with Freddy Krueger in that movie. But either way, it's still a lot of fun to see the monster and the Wolfman. Lionel Atwell is also in this film as the mayor of the town where the Frankenstein tragedy took place, and so he's the one guy that's trying to keep all the townspeople from going crazy, very much in the same vein of Halloween Kills, where you had the townspeople of Haddonfield screaming, "Evil dies tonight." Lionel Atwell is also one of those actors that is seen in other films in this series playing different roles. He was also in The Son of Frankenstein, where he played the chief inspector, who was basically the same character in Young Frankenstein, who was the guy with the monocle who had the mechanical arm and, the very thick accent that was very hard to understand. The classic clash of the monsters is inevitable in this movie, and it's a very fun thing to behold if you're a fan of monsters fighting each other, especially the classic monsters. Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman is a joyous occasion for monster movie fans. For fans of the black and white classic Universal films, this is an entertaining movie. This is a fun movie. If you're into this kind of thing, if you're into black and white monster films, you really can't go wrong with Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. It is a 4-star classic, and it's the kind of movie that really gets you pumped up and excited for the spooky season, especially around October when Halloween comes around. This is my copy of a Frankenstein DVD set of the original 8 films. It's called the Frankenstein Complete Legacy Collection, which includes all 8 movies from the original 1931 classic to the final film, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. If you have the Peacock streaming service, and you can probably find all the classic Universal monster movies on there as well. But if you want to get yourself a hard copy of this, you can't go wrong with the Legacy Collection. It is a really cool thing to have for monster movie fans. So yeah, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman from 1943. Thank you all very much for watching this classic movie review. I very much appreciate it. If you're into classic movies, if you're into this kind of thing, hit the bell, subscribe. I'm always talking about the classics. If you're a returning viewer, thank you very much for watching. I always appreciate you. Please don't forget to comment, share, like, and because October is pretty much here, look forward to a lot more classic horror movie reviews coming up pretty soon. So thank you very much. Till next time, everybody take care, God bless, and peace out.